Welcome to PAB2011.
I wrote a blog post about 3 years ago. Did the concept of social media originate in the Catholic Church? I'll let that sink a bit. Pretty much in the same way as this guy invented the internet. He did never say he invented the internet. What he did say was he was instrumental in the creation of the internet. While he was in Congress and later in Senate, he was heavily involved in the regulatory situations and drafting the legislation and laying the groundwork to turn some obscure military networks and academic networks into the modern internet. What I'm trying to say is, yes, he did. He was heavily involved in it. In the same way, the Catholic Church has been thinking about what makes people communicate with people for a very, very long time. And in fact, I'm going to go to Inter Mirifica. Inter Mirifica was a document of Vatican II in 1963. Inter Mirifica set the stage for how the Church wanted to deal with what they defined as social communications. Social communications they defined as any form of communication where we're not one-to-one, where it's one to the masses. Those media, such as the press, movies, radio, television, and the like, can by their very nature reach and influence not only individuals, but the very masses and the whole of human society, and thus can be rightly called the media of social communication. Media, social media, social media. Did the Catholic Church originate the concept of social media? No. Has it been talking about it for 40 years? Yeah. As part of Inter Mirifica, they set up what's called the Pontifical Council of Social Communications. And every year since 1967, there's a World Communications Day, and the Church places such value in it that the World Communications Day encompasses 3 days of the year. On September 29th, the feast of the Archangels Michael, Raphael, and Gabriel, they announced the theme for the upcoming World Communications Day. On January 24th, the memorial of St. Francis de Sales, the patron of writers and journalists, the Holy Father releases his letter for the annual World Communications Day. And then on the about 5 weeks after Easter, on the Sunday before Pentecost, is the day to reflect on that message and on social communications and on mass communications. Past themes over 45 years of World Communications Day letter have included, amongst others, this year's letter, Truth Proclamation and Authenticity of Life in the Digital Age. And I want to get into that a little bit in a minute. 2009, New Technologies, New Relations, Promoting a Culture of Respect, Dialogue, and Friendship. This guy, Blessed Pope John Paul II, wrote amazing things. Playwright, author, theologian. After his beatification this May in Rome, on 3 weeks' notice, the same Pontifical Council of Communications and some other Vatican office, on 3 weeks' notice, they invited bloggers from all over the world to come to Rome and talk blogging. Talk about blogging in the church and share their experiences. And people answered the call and were going from all over the world. I had several friends who were invited. They had 750 applicants for 150 spots. People are using these new media to share their faith, to understand their faith, to form communities. Why wouldn't we? These are the tools we've been given. In 2005, Pope John Paul II wrote what's called an apostolic letter on the rapid development. And he talked about a number of things on the rapid development, that there are basically 4 ways that the church can use the new media. For religious information, masstimes.org. For evangelization and catechesis, that's teaching people. For the formation of pastoral workers, so training and education. For the education of a mature responsibility of the users and recipients of various communications media. And that's sort of what interests me, because the church has thought a long time on moral issues, on how people deal with each other, and it does have something to say. I know that with certain events in the news, the moral credibility is often called into question, but that's the failings of individuals, and it's a tragedy, but let's move on. There is something to say here. It is important to assure that media professionals receive the necessary formation and pastoral attention to confront the particular tensions and ethical dilemmas that arise in their daily work. Often these men and women sincerely desire to know and practice what is ethically and morally just and look to the church for guidance and support. So he talks about 3 outcomes: formation, which I'm sort of involved with online, helping people, participation, and dialogue. Always dialogue. It has always been about a dialogue, and as I said earlier, it has always been about one person to one person. It is the only thing that has mattered. When we use these forms of mass communication, and nobody's more excited than me about, this is Star Trek, the things we do on a daily basis. I grew up in Riley, Alberta. In the boom times, it peaked out at 500 people. And I would dream of, someday having my own radio show. I do it in my rec room on this little netbook. Hundreds of episodes of podcasts. And people listen. 3 or 4. But it's amazing. It's Star Trek. What we can do with this technology is astounding. But it's still, I'm one person talking with one person, talking to one person, having a conversation, and it always has been, and it's about respect. I'm just going to backpedal a little bit. Inter Mirifica, the Vatican II document, which set up the idea of social communications. The Synod invites all men of goodwill, especially those who have charge of these media, to strive to turn them solely to the good of society, whose fate depends more and more on their proper use. Thus was the case with ancient works of art. So again, and it goes further in the document to talk about how a journalist, how someone using mass media has a responsibility to a moral responsibility, first of all, to tell the truth. But also, is this story appropriate to be told? Am I telling it in the right ways? Am I serving the good of the world, of the good of humanity by telling this story? That's a strong responsibility. I'm going to, Mark just flashed me a sign. I want to get to this gentleman, Pope Benedict XVI. And the current letter, Truth, Proclamation, and Authenticity in Life in the Digital Age. Oh man, there's so many things I could get into with this year's letter. Talks about, in quotes, I love it. It talks about, in quotes, the danger of these false friends on the internet. And the relationship we make on the internet, they can be authentic, but it sort of relies on whether we are authentic. It talks about there's a danger in these relationships that we can create a persona which is not authentic, which is not genuine, which does not represent our true self, and that we can present a false image using these tools, and we have to be wary of this. It talks about if someone in my position, lay people are called to spread the good news, to share the gospel online. Well, again, not the bad kind of proselytizing, but be the good image.